Like every other year, I watched a ton of movies in 2021. You know, being a guy who's like obsessed with movies, I did watch quite a bit. Maybe not as much as you're expecting, since like I am a guy who talks about movies all the time. I spend all my time editing videos about it, but that's because I do that. I edit all the videos and everything. That takes up a bunch of time, so we're gonna balance the two. I can't do both. If I didn't make videos, I could probably watch more movies, but hey, that's the sacrifice I make, okay? Yeah, okay. But anyway, let's actually get to it. So I thought that I would talk about every single movie that I watched this year in categories, from what I saw in cinemas to new movies to me that I saw at home and rewatches, all that stuff. I'll get to that soon. The numbers though come down to 212 new to me movie watches, 31 rewatches of movies, which comes to 243 total movies. So maybe, you know, it's not like the lowest numbers ever, but it's probably not as many as you might think when it comes to coming from somebody who like is constantly talking about movies. I don't know. But I also did watch 61 TV shows as well, which I will get to at the end. And yeah, that's another thing that kind of brought the movie numbers down. I watched a lot more shows than I normally would. So yeah, you know, time. I only have so much time. Everything has to be balanced, so that's what it all comes down to. 243 total movies and 61 TV shows. Anyway, let's stop excusing the either low or high numbers or whatever you might think those numbers are. Impressive, not impressive, very disappointing. Not the point, let's actually get to the list. So starting off with movies that I saw in cinemas, and I just got my list here on my phone here, and yeah, let's get to it. So the first movie that I saw in cinemas was Promising Young Woman, and nothing topped it. That was my favorite movie of the year, and yeah, so funnily enough, right at the top, right there at the very start, and then, you know, everything else, I guess, in comparison was a letdown. But yeah, Promising Young Woman, I think, is ingenious. Check out my top 20 movies of 2021 list video if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that. Then 2 was Wrong Turn, the 2021 remake, which I actually thought was way more highly respectable than I was expecting it to be. I thought it was just going to be like horror trash, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. It actually was trying to like say something. I liked it. Then 3 was Malcolm and Marie. This is a very like artfully done movie that says quite a lot about film criticism and also relationships. The whole thing is set in this apartment where this couple is fighting. I liked it a lot. Then 4 was Synchronic. This is a movie with Anthony Mackie and it's like time travel elements to it. It's not great, but it was okay. Then 5 was Another Round. This is that movie with Mads Mikkelsen and his buddies, and they make a pact to keep drinking a little bit every day so that they are always just below that level, like the limit. And so yeah, they like keep buzzed at all times just to see how that will affect their lives, or give them more confidence, will help them out. Well, for some it kind of does, for others it definitely doesn't. And yeah, it is kind of an interesting little experiment, I suppose, when it comes to like alcohol. But I did in the end think that the message was a bit mixed when it comes to, yeah, drinking is bad. If you do it a lot, drinking's okay. If you do it some of the time, I suppose. But for some people, I felt like there were contradictions. It felt like a celebration, but it also felt like damning of alcohol. I was a little like, yeah, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to tell me here. Just a little bit. So I know a lot of people really love this movie. I thought it was interesting, but it annoyed me how they stopped the pact where they were keeping just below the limit and they started to drink more and more. I guess that was to show that you can't keep that up, but I thought that ruined the experiment. Like, that ruined the premise of the film. Anyway, I'm talking about this for way too long. I thought it was good, I just didn't love it as much as everybody else. 6 is Judas and the Black Messiah, which is a movie that I was a bit disappointed by, if I'm being honest. I do think it's solid. I think it's a pretty fantastic film. It's got great performances in there, but I was expecting it to be like my favorite movie of the year, and it wasn't my favorite. It was just solid. It was good. Similar feelings with the next one in Minari, which I do like quite a lot, if I'm being honest, but yeah, it didn't blow me away. Just good. Just a good film, you know, objectively good. Then Godzilla vs. Kong, and what the hell do you want me to say about Godzilla vs. Kong? It's Godzilla vs. Kong, okay? It was fun, I guess. It was dumb, I don't know. Then there was Nobody, which was one of my favorite movies of the year. It was kind of like this more vulnerable version of John Wick, and yeah, it had a bit of a sense of humor about itself. It was good. Then there was The Father, which tore my heart to shreds. Hard watch, but definitely a worthy watch. Then 11 was Voyages, which is this movie about these teenagers going up in space, and they're like taking drugs so that they don't feel things anymore, and they stop taking the drugs so they feel things and hormones and whatever. I don't know, something like that. Not very memorable. That's my struggle to explain it all. Then there was The Unholy, and unholy shit, what a bad movie. I thought that was atrocious. I actually walked down on The Unholy. I just It was fucking terrible. Then there was Mortal Kombat, the Mortal Kombat movie, which I had quite a bit of fun with. It was like, you know, pretty violent. There were some characters I recognized, so I'm like, hey, that's a character I recognize. And, hey, that's an other character that I recognize, which isn't often something I get in a lot of video game adaptions and that sort of stuff. So, I don't know, I fanboyed out a little bit with this one, I suppose. Then there was Every Breath You Take, which is just this solid thriller, kind of generic, but I did like it. Not a hugely respected film, but I like it. Then there was Spiral, which if you watch my channel, you know how I feel about it. I was a bit disappointed, but I did like it in the end because, you know, it's another Saw movie. I think it's mainly solid. I got it up here because I was excited to get it just the other day. It's worthy showing, you know, it's worthy being one of the facing movies in the background of my video, at least for a little bit, but it probably is my least favorite Saw movie. 16 was A Quiet Place 2. A really good movie. Wasn't one of my favorites of the year, but it was definitely very good. It probably should have got an honorable mention on my top 20 list, but oh well. Then there was Cruella, which is a movie that shouldn't have worked, but definitely did for me. Then there was F9, which fuck me was really just bad. I didn't enjoy F9 at all, not even in like a dumb, fun, entertaining way. It was just bad. Then there was Escape Room 2, which was fine. Then there was Black Widow. Again, another one I actually liked quite a bit, to be honest. I was surprised by how much I liked Black Widow. Then there was Gunpowder Milkshake, one of the most badass movies of the year by far. It's basically John Wick, but it's all these women, and they are just kicking ass. There's this one scene in a bowling alley, which I won't soon forget. It's just fun. Then Old was interesting. Old is a movie with some bad performances in there. Old is a movie that doesn't quite get the nuance of being a human, it seems like, but I don't think it's as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I think it's predictable in its twist. It didn't exactly blow my mind, but it had an interesting premise, and I thought it was okay, but it really was weird with the dialogue. That's really what fucked Old up for me. And then we went into lockdown, okay? So the next movie that I saw after Old wasn't until like 4 months later or something, and that was Antlers, which I saw quite recently, actually. Antlers was solid. Then Lamb. Lamb was an interesting movie about parenthood, and I don't want to say much more than that, actually. Lamb is actually a pretty good one. Then Pig, which is kind of a John Wick movie, but without the action violence, which sounds like it makes absolutely no sense, but you'll understand if you go see it. Then Last Night in Soho. This was my 6th favorite movie of the year. Edgar Wright's new movie about time traveling kind of horror movie, and it was really good. Then there's Nitram, which is a very tough watch, controversial watch about a real-life mass shooter here in Australia. Wouldn't recommend it to a lot of people, if I'm being honest. But if it sounds interesting to you, I would definitely recommend it. Does that make any sense? Like, I feel like if I were to recommend it to, I don't know, people at my work or something, they'd be like, ugh. Like it's not it's hard. It's a hard one to recommend. Like, I think it would offend some people. I think it would bore others. It's just a hard one to recommend. Then 28 was Eternals, which is my least favorite MCU film. And I think by far, if I'm being honest, I thought it was an absolute slog and a half to get through. It just went on and on and on and on and on. But it was still an MCU movie, and I didn't hate it. You know, it had its moments. Then there was Venom 2, which also had its dumb moments, which I enjoyed much more than I should have. Then there was Don't Look Up, which is a movie that everybody's been watching recently. Some people have been hating. Something that I want to say about this, though, everyone's criticism about this movie, a lot of people I've read have been like, I get it, climate change, it's climate change. And I'm like, is it climate change? I thought that Don't Look Up was more about COVID. No? That's what I thought. Maybe I misread the entire movie. I don't know. But I thought it was like a clever satire. Maybe it was a bit on the nose. Maybe it was obvious what it was going for. But I enjoyed it. I don't know. What do you want me to say? Then there was Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is just basically exactly what you would think it would be. Like, it's good. It's alright. Like, I don't know. Ghostbusters isn't really my thing. But yeah. I didn't, like, hate it. I enjoyed it. Then there was Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which, yeah, look, it's probably the best Resident Evil movie, I guess. It wasn't, like, great, but I liked it. Like, as a Resident Evil fan, like, of the games, I was like, alright, this is okay. Then there was Spider-Man No Way Home. That's the last movie that I saw in cinemas this year. Absolutely blown away. That was my 2nd favorite movie of the year after Promising Young Woman. Holy shit, look at that! The first movie I saw this year was my favorite. The last movie I saw in cinemas this year was my 2nd favorite. That's interesting. By complete accident, that turned out. Okay, now the next category of movies that I watched were 2021 movies, but at home, not in cinemas. Okay, the first one is kind of a cheat, but it's Down Falls High, the kind of music video by Machine Gun Kelly. I can't believe I'm counting this, but I am, because I gotta get those numbers up. Not good. not very good. It's a bit cringy, but I like Machine Gun Kelly, you know, good music, so I don't know. Does that give it any credit? Probably not, but it was fine, I guess. 2 was The Map of Tiny Perfect Things, which was one of my favorite movies of the year as well. This is a movie that's a total rip-off of Groundhog Day, but it's also like a rom-com with teenagers who are, I don't know, doing cute shit around a small town, and they figure out how they can exploit the Groundhog Day situation that they found themselves in, and it's cute. I don't know, it's good. Then 3 is Moxie, which is a movie about girls in high school, and they start, it's like a feminist magazine thing, and it was okay. Not really a movie for me, but I don't know. My wife wanted to watch it, and she enjoyed it, and I'm like, cool, we watched a movie. Then 4 was The Snyder Cut, Justice League, The Snyder Cut, and I thought this was not really that much better than the original. I don't know what anyone's talking about when they're like saying it's heaps better. It's 4 hours long. If it's 4 hours long, it doesn't need to be. It's not heaps better. I don't know what to tell you. Should have been non-existent. I really didn't like the Snyder Cut very much. I don't know. Then 8 was, not 8. Then 5, sorry, was Run. This is a movie about a girl in a wheelchair it's kind of like this slasher type of movie. She's kind of stuck in her house and everything. Very intense. I like it quite a lot. Then there was The Woman in the Window, which is a movie that everybody kind of shitted on this year. Like, said it wasn't great. But you know what? I liked it alright. I liked it. I feel like I'm trying to convince myself. Then 7 was The Mitchells versus the Machines. This was, I believe, my 19th or 18th favorite movie of the year. Cute, fun, energetic animation. You know, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they got a good sense of humor. I like it. Then there was Army of the Dead. Fuck, I hated Army of the Dead so much. It was so boring. I didn't finish this one. Sorry. Then there was Bo Burnham Inside, which is something that is it a movie? I'm counting it. This is something that I enjoyed. Like, I laughed a bit and everything, but I really didn't like it as much as everybody else loved it. I wasn't obsessed with it. More than anything, I was impressed by what he was able to achieve in a room by himself. But I also felt like that was a bit manufactured to look more impressive than it really was, because, yes, he did it all himself, but he also had, in lockdown and everything, he had the ability to spend all that time by himself, just in a room. He had the money. I'm not saying that this had a huge budget, but he didn't have to go to work. He had the time to do it. He had the money to live off and just spend all his time doing art. I think a lot of people could make things almost as impressive if they put in that amount of time that he was able to. Does that make any sense? I feel like people gave him a lot of credit, but it's a lot of people could do that kind of stuff if they had the time, if they didn't have to go to their day job and everything, that's kind of I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining that properly. Maybe that's unfair, because I did think it was impressive. He made some really catchy songs, some really funny stuff. In particular, there was that reaction channel where he kept looping and he was reacting to himself and whatever. That was ingenious. I really enjoyed that. Look, I thought it was good. I just didn't love it as much as everybody else did, but hey, I don't know. What do you want? That's just my opinion. Then there was The Conjuring 3, which, yes, we were in lockdown, so I didn't get to see this one in cinemas. God damn it. Definitely the least, good, the least well-made Conjuring movie, out of the 3, but I don't know, it was alright. Then there was Two Distant Strangers, which is a short, but I thought I would count it anyway. I thought this was actually fantastic. I thought every time he went through the loop, if you know what this short is about, sorry, it's about this black guy who, exits his building every morning. It's a Groundhog Day situation, and no matter what he does, the cop kills him. There's a cop outside, and every single time he kills him. So he greets him nicely, shoots him. He, yells at him and swears at him, shoots him. He, doesn't acknowledge him at all, shoots him. And every single time, there's always an excuse. And I thought that was a really interesting and creative metaphor. Then next up was Willy's Wonderland with Nicolas Cage, as he's fighting, stuffed animals that are haunted and whatever. I was expecting to love the fuck out of this, and I actually didn't. I didn't really like this one that much. Then there was Fear Street Part 1, which was a movie that I really loved the start of. I loved the first half. Then the second half started to get all like supernaturally, and I didn't think it was that. I thought it was more like Scream, like just a standard slasher type of thing. I wasn't really into the supernatural stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And then I didn't watch the next two. I should. I know I should, because I think that in the right mindset, knowing that it's supernatural, I could get into it better, and I would actually enjoy these movies quite a bit probably, but I just went in with the wrong expectations, I think, and I ended up not loving this. And then, I don't know, everyone was talking about 2 and 3, and I'm like, I don't know, I can't keep up, fuck off, leave me alone, I don't want to watch these. And I didn't, but I probably will. I wouldn't be surprised if I watched them this year. Then 14 was Luca, which is a Pixar movie, and it was okay. I didn't love it quite as much as I do a lot of other Pixar movies. Not bad, the animation's beautiful, all that stuff. It's a Pixar movie. It's definitely up to standard. I just didn't love it as much as some of the other ones. Then there was The Forever Purge, which is definitely a movie I didn't love as some of the other ones, the other Purge movies. These movies just seem to be getting worse now. I mean, a lot of people would think that from the very start. The Purge isn't exactly a highly respected franchise, but I really like the first 3. Not so much anymore. Next up was Here's All That, which, oh my god, Here's All That is embarrassingly a movie I did not hate. Look, I didn't love it. It's not a movie I'll ever watch in my life again, but I don't know, I actually kind of enjoyed it. Then there was Vacation Friends, which is this comedy with John Cena that was it was fine. Then there was Malignant, which is another movie that I didn't get to see in cinemas because we're in lockdown, and I'm so bummed about that. I'm so sad about that still. I wish I saw this one in cinemas. James Wan's newest film. Oh man, Chef's Kiss. I love it. Then there was The Suicide Squad, which was a movie that surprisingly I didn't really like all that much. I thought that the humor in it felt really forced. It was just constantly trying to be funny in these really edgy ways and everything, and I'm like, yeah, alright, I get it, James Gunn, you're so fucking funny. I don't know, I just thought it wasn't as funny as it thought it was. It wasn't as clever as it thought it was. It was fun, it was good and whatever. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but the humor really brought it down for me, to be honest. I've heard nothing but praise for this movie, so hey, you might disagree with me highly here, but that's okay. That's the point of these sorts of videos and lists and stuff. That's the point about talking about it, right? Debate, disagreements, all that stuff. It's fun. It's what makes us different, right? Then there was Don't Breathe 2, which it's talking about disagreements. Everybody hates this movie, and I understand why. It's because it's kind of turning a very bad person, an objectively bad person, into somewhat of a hero, or at least the main character of this movie. And look, it somewhat does in some ways, but I think that it's more nuanced than that. It's more nuanced than, this guy's okay, actually. I don't think that the movie ever says this guy's okay. I think it just says what he wants to do in this very moment aligns with what we want to happen, in which is helping the girl that he's trying to help in this movie. But everything else apart from that is still showing that this is a bad person. This is not the hero. It's an anti-hero. That literally the definition of an anti-hero. Yeah, I don't know. It's morally complex. It's not just good and bad. It's he's bad, but he's doing some good at the moment. Maybe he's trying to redeem himself, but he doesn't deserve it. It's interesting to me. I liked it. Then there was Candyman, which was a movie I was really expecting to love, and I just thought it was okay. Then there was Prime Time, which is a movie that is set in a TV station, and somebody takes the TV station hostage, basically, the people in there. And it's intense, but it's very reminiscent of a few other movies that I've seen. Not the most highly original version of that. And I will get to another kind of version of this movie that I actually thought was a lot better from a few years back before this movie came out. That obviously isn't in my 2021 movies category. Okay, then there was Britney versus Spears, which was not a movie that I would have ever chosen to watch, but my wife wanted to watch it, and it was interesting. It was interesting, I suppose. I really don't know much about Britney Spears. I suppose I know a little bit now, but I don't know. It was interesting, and it kind of shows how fucked up even the most privileged people can be in certain ways, and how exploited she was. And then there was Free Guy, which I fucking hated. Free Guy. I hate Free Guy so much. It's so annoying. Free Guy is not funny. Free Guy is so fucking annoying. I'm sorry. My sister fucking really liked this movie, and we talked about it after I watched it, and she couldn't understand why I hate it, because she's like, it's got nerdy shit in it. Don't you love it? I'm like, no, it's just pushing all the nerdy shit in your face. Look, it's things he recognized. And I don't know, man. It was just, I like Ryan Reynolds, okay? I like Deadpool. I literally have Deadpool tattooed on me. But Free Guy was just fucking annoying. Then 25 was The Guilty, which is a totally unnecessary remake, but you know what? I thought it was pretty damn effective. I liked it quite a lot. Jake Gyllenhaal is amazing in this movie, to be honest. He really made me feel for this character who maybe doesn't deserve sympathy. You know, it's good. Then 26 was Till Death, which I did not finish. This is Megan Fox. She's in a predicament. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know. It's not worth saying too much more, I reckon. I didn't like this movie at all. Sorry. I was expecting to. I'm sure like my subscribers would expect me to love this movie, but I didn't. Then there's Someone in Your House, which was like pretty okay. I liked it. Then there was Boss Level, which was okay. This is like another Groundhog Day movie, but it's like, this one's an action movie where the guy keeps getting killed over and over and over, kind of like that episode Mystery Spot of Supernatural, where he just keeps dying over and over and over. It was a bit like that, had a bit of a sense of humor, but it did take itself surprisingly serious in some moments, which I didn't like. I'm like, stop trying to like be more, okay? Just be your dumb self, all right? Then there was VHS 94, which I think is easily the best VHS movie. Mostly very strong segments. Yeah, I liked it. Then there was The Night House. Interesting. Strong, independent type of horror movie. Very artfully done. I enjoy it. Then there was Halloween Kills, which... Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills, man. Halloween Kills killed my anticipation for Halloween Ends. Not really, I'm still pretty excited for that. Then there was the Dave Chappelle Netflix special that everyone was talking about, and it made me really want to watch it because I was curious. I didn't finish it because he's not funny. I wasn't like super offended or anything. That being said, I didn't watch much of it. I probably stopped watching it before he got to the really offensive stuff and whatever. I just didn't think it was funny. He's just, I don't know. Maybe his older stuff is funnier. I'm not really familiar with his comedy specials, if I'm being honest. I know a lot of people think he's ingenious. I think that he contradicted himself in some ways. I think some of what he said was like, I hate this group, and then this group deserves sympathy, and then this group, it's like everyone deserves sympathy in certain ways and stuff, and I don't know. I just didn't think it was very funny. I thought it was, from what I did say, it was like, I wasn't personally offended, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't funny, okay? Then there was The Trip, which I mentioned in my favorite movies of the year list. This is about a husband and wife who are planning to kill each other, but get interrupted by more people trying to kill more people, and it's fun. Then there was Superhost, which is about a host of an Airbnb who will do anything to get a high rating, and things get bloody. Then there was Paranormal Activity Next of Kin, this year's Paranormal Activity. Probably my favorite Paranormal Activity, but that's not saying a lot. I don't like the Paranormal Activity series very much. Then there was Queen Pins, which was a movie that I literally wanted to watch just because it had Vince Vaughn in it. And it turns out he wasn't like in it that much, I guess. He was kind of just the straight man. But it was still pretty good. Like, this is a comedy about a apparently real life crime that happened where these women figured out that they could exploit this coupon scam, like with coupons, if they bulk fake made a lot and then sold them off and everything, they could make a ton of cash off it. And yeah, I don't know, it was okay. Then there was Shang-Chi, which is just kind of another like middling MCU movie. When I say middling MCU movie, that means it was very good. All the MCU movies are basically really good. I liked it a lot more than Eternals. Not my favorite, but far from my least favorite as well, being Eternals. Yeah, it was good. Sorry, it's pronounced Shang-Chi, is that right? Yeah. Then there was The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne. This is the Benedict Cumberbatch movie about this painter guy who had these famous paintings of cats or something. And there was a lack of cats in this movie. It was good, but it was like this slow biopic. It was good. And then next up was Shook, which is actually a pretty bad movie, but I kind of respect it in a way as well. This is a very independent horror movie that's it's trying to do some ambitious things. Like, for instance, they'll have these like interesting angles. They'll have these shots where they're trying to do something interesting. It'll be a character texting and then behind them, like, they've got a projector just over there, I suppose, and they're projecting their messages behind like the character, and it's like, that's a pretty interesting way to do it. It looks pretty cool. I kind of like that. Too bad the rest of the movie just isn't that good. I feel like the filmmakers behind this one, though, just need a bit of practice. I feel like this was a good one to just, it's not amazing. It's not on par with like other first directors' movies and stuff like Jordan Peele with Get Out or Ari Aster with Hereditary. It's definitely not on that level close at all. But I feel like if they keep trying and they keep doing these kind of experimental things that maybe they could make a good movie here. Too bad Shook wasn't. Then there was Tick Tick Boom, which is a Netflix movie with Andrew Garfield about a musical man, a musical composer named John Larson. He is the guy who made the musical Rent, which is nothing I've ever seen or anything, not familiar with it, but ended up being one of my absolute favorite movies of the year. Really got to me. Really got to me as an artist, really got to me as a 20-something-year-old. Yeah, really enjoyed it. And there's Single All the Way. Single All the Way. So, you see... Sorry, I'm stealing a bit here. Eric Holmes, if you're watching, I'm stealing your bit. It's called Single All the Way because it's like the song Jingle All the Way. But you see, the main character is single. So it's called Single All the Way. Do you get it? Do you get it? It's a really clever pun, isn't it? Yeah, Single All the Way. I didn't like Single All the Way very much. Sorry. I don't know. It was okay. No, not really. It was pretty bad. But then 42, and this is a total contradiction because it's like the exact same type of movie. I don't know why. Maybe I was just in the wrong mood the first night. Then the second night, I'm like, hell yeah, let's watch this dumb Christmas shit because I liked Love Hard, man. I liked Love Hard, which is a movie about this guy who catfishes a girl. He goes over to his city, wherever that is, to meet with him for the first time. She's been catfished though, it's a different guy, and from then on they learn that love is really on the inside. And I watched this movie twice. I watched it with my parents. Okay, I'm not proud of that fact. Next up was Coming Home in the Dark, which is a New Zealand movie about a family who gets taken hostage, basically, because of one of the family members' actions from the past. Whether he did this or not, we don't know. And we don't find out what this act is until later into the movie either. And it's interesting. It's really good. I was quite impressed with this movie. I'd recommend this to anyone who is into the thriller genre. Then 44, this is the last 2021 movie that I saw at home. It was The Power of the Dog, which I thought was pretty boring. I liked some of what it was going for quite a bit. It was kind of exploring the the homophobia and stuff with the son character. I liked Jesse Plemons in it just because it's Jesse Plemons. But in the end, I really thought that this could have been edited down at least 20 minutes or so, something like that, because this dragged, man. This dragged quite a lot. I can see why people like it. I respect it. I think it's well made. It just wasn't for me, I think. And now, next up are the older movies, new to me movies that I saw at home. So anything that came out before 2021 is on this, and this is the longest category that's going to be in this video, so let's try and get through it. First up was Tour de Pharmacy, which is a movie with Andy Samberg in it, and it's basically a parody of like the Tour de France, and it's about doping, basically, and all the cyclists who take a bunch of drugs to hopefully be, better and win and all that sort of stuff. And it's basically just this ridiculous comedy about how everybody's doing it. It's very over the top. It's basically a long Saturday Night Live sketch. It goes for about 40-50 minutes. I really enjoyed it. I think it's pretty great. Then there's 7 Days in Hell, which is the other one they made, the same group of people, and this one's about like tennis instead. It's not as good, but like it's similar sense of humor, and it's alright. Then there was Election, which is that movie with Matthew Broderick where he is a school principal. Reese Witherspoon is there. She wants to be like the school captain or whatever, or I don't know. What do they vote for in America? Whatever that thing is called. And it's fine. I don't know. It's not that good. It's okay. Then 4 is Elephant, which is a movie about or leading up to a school shooting. I think that this is not as good as NetRam, but this did come out way ahead of that time. This came out, I believe, in 2003. It was early 2000s. This one's set in America, and it's interesting, but I didn't love it as much as I was expecting to. Then there was Freaks of Nature, which is just this, oh my god, it's a movie with zombies and vampires and whatever the hell else you can think of, and it's just crazy. Just this comedy horror. I don't even know. I don't know how to explain it. It's alright, it's fun. Then there was Sundogs, which is a movie I don't think I finished. I barely remember this movie. Movie on Netflix about this guy who wants to be like a pilot or in the Navy or military or something like that. I don't even remember. I don't think I finished it. Then there was Chef, which is Jon Favreau's movie about being a chef. And I like it. And if you watch Ben Chinapin's video on the Mr. Sunday Movies channel, he made a movie about Chef and how it's all an allegory for what happened with Jon Favreau and Iron Man, and it's ingenious. I really like that video a lot, and it makes this movie that much better. It's already good on its own without that extra context, but then you watch it with all that in your mind and you're like, shit, yeah, this makes a lot of sense actually. And yeah, I like it. Then there was Soul, which is one of my favorite Pixar movies of all time, straight away, to be honest. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Then there's A Prayer Before Dawn, which is a movie about a guy who goes to a Thailand prison and learns to like fight there, basically. And if he like can be good enough and everything, he can maybe like get out, get some success. And it's alright. It's pretty good. It's interesting. Then there was Wild Tales. Wild Tales is a Spanish movie that's a combination of a bunch of shorts, which is just about all of these just wild tales, basically. These weird situations that people find themselves in. It's kind of like a long, more dark version of like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode every time, because it'll be somebody who's like, this one guy who gets obsessed with trying to dismiss a parking ticket and ruins his life because of it. There's this person who like is getting followed on the highway or something, and they like basically end up fighting because of it. I don't know, there's just a bunch of these weird stories that all kind of go in these very wild directions. I guess that's obvious, right? With the title Wild Tales. It's hilarious. This movie's really funny, but it's also dark in some ways as well. It really balances those tones fantastically. Wild Tales is easily one of my favorite movies that I watched this year. Then there was Becky, which is that movie with Kevin James where he is like a neo-Nazi and he's hunting down a little girl and he's gonna try and kill her, but obviously she's like turns into a little badass and takes all of his like baddies down and whatever, and it's just this violent, fun movie. Definitely up my alley. Then there was Contagion, which everybody watched in 2020 when COVID was like at its peak. I decided not to because I'm like, do I really feel like watching this right now? And then I watched it when we were in another lockdown in 2021. Interesting. Very interesting how it was made years prior to COVID and all this sort of stuff, and how accurate it gets other aspects to it. Like, you know, I don't know, lots of little things. It was interesting. Then 13 was The Hobbit. I liked it. I don't know. A lot of people don't like The Hobbit. I thought it was okay. Then I watched the second Hobbit, whatever it's called. Where is it? Where are you? So the first one is An Unexpected Journey. The second one is The Desolation of Smaug. And then The Battle of Five Armies. I watched all the Hobbit movies just because I wanted to have seen them. Yep. And I thought they were okay. That's all I have to say. Then there was Godzilla 2, which I hated. I thought Godzilla 2 was boring as fuck. Then Bone Tomahawk. Bone Tomahawk is a huge recommend. One of my favorite movies that I watched this year. It is a Western, but it's also sort of like this slasher movie, I suppose. Gets very bloody at certain points. One particular image that will never leave my mind. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what part I'm talking about. Yeah, I really like this movie. And then another huge recommend, one of my absolute favorite movies of the year. I think it's cut off here, but it's just here. On my shelf. A Ghost Story. A Ghost Story is a movie that... Okay, look. A Ghost Story is something that kind of makes sense when it comes to... It makes some sense of a possibility of the afterlife. It's sort of comforting, if I'm being honest. It's like, shit, maybe that is how it works. Maybe. I don't know. But it's definitely interesting. Some of the things that it does, like it shows this kind of realistic portrayal of what might happen after death and what happens to the people that we leave behind when we die as well. It's slow. It's not going to be for everyone, but I think it's fucking beautiful. A Ghost Story blew me away in just about every way. Highly recommend it to some people. Then there is Tusk, which is a Kevin Smith movie based on a joke that they made on a podcast. Apparently, I haven't actually heard the podcast, but yeah. It is about a man turning into a walrus, and that's about all I'm going to say. Then there is Come to Daddy. Come to Daddy. Come to Daddy is a fun movie. Got it just here facing. Elijah Wood is in it, and he is funny in it. I like it. Then there's Big Time Adolescence, which is a movie with Pete Davidson, and he is just reluctant to grow up. And I thought it was kind of relatable in some ways, because I don't want to grow up. Who wants to grow up? And then Spree, which is easily one of my favorite movies of the year as well, up there with The Ghost Story and Bone Tomahawk and Wild Tales and Chef. Spree is about a kid with a YouTube channel called Kurt's World, and he will do anything to make that channel succeed. And I can definitely relate to this in some ways. Obviously, he takes things too far though. Basically, the movie is about him being an Uber driver as he picks people up and records them. He has conversations with them, and this is the content that he is making daily at the moment. And this is just something that he's trying at the moment. He's tried things before, presumably he will try things later. But this is when he comes across the idea where people will watch violence. And so he takes things in the wrong direction. Then there is The Dirt, which is a movie biopic about a band called Motley Crue, which is not really a band I'm not familiar with, but it was an okay movie, yeah. Then there was Marcy May Marlene, which is about a woman who is trying to leave a cult, and it's about how cults very much find their victims through these people that feel vulnerable, and it's interesting. Then there's Alpha Dog, which is really bad. Oh my god, I thought Alpha Dog was going to be good. Did not like Alpha. Then there was Bloodfest. Bloodfest is a fun horror comedy about a Halloween Horror Nights inspired type of situation where they go to like this amusement park of horror, and it turns out everything that is going on is real and they're in actual danger. Then next up is Mean Creek, which is a movie about a group of young teenagers who accidentally kill one of the people in their group. And it's basically just about what they do from there, because they're basically fucked in that situation, right? It was an accident, but it was also very avoidable. Well, it was an accident in a way. It's interesting. It's a very hard, it's a very morally complex situation that you find these characters in, and whether you can sympathize with them or not. Some you can, some you can't. And I just feel fucking so bad for one of the main characters, the kid who gets killed in this movie, because he is a textbook example of a bully, right? But he's struggling. And even though he's a bully, he didn't deserve to get killed. It's interesting. Then there is, I watched this before the remake, but just because I've got these like in the categories instead of order that I watched them in. I watched The Guilty, the original The Guilty, which is a movie about a like call operator person, and as he tries to help a woman who has presumably been kidnapped, and we never leave the room. We just experience this situation with him as he tries to help his caller. Definitely a strong movie. The remake is on par with it though. I don't know which I like better. Then there was The Squid and the Whale, which is a movie that I've been meaning to watch for actually many years for some reason. I know it's a weird one because it's like, who's heard of this? But I liked the cover. I liked Jesse Eisenberg. I'm like, I should watch it. And then I never did. But now I did. And it was okay. Then there was Lords of Dogtown, which is a movie with Heath Ledger in it. Not that early, a few years before The Dark Knight. This is a movie about skateboarding. It's about the 90s. And I just really like the kind of culture behind that stuff. I'm not a skateboarder. I tried a few times back in the day, but I'm just not. My body just ain't made for it, man. But I've always been really interested in the culture. I like watching like skateboarding videos on, I don't know, Instagram Reels and shit sometimes. I've loved the Tony Hawk's games forever, all that sort of stuff. So I was interested in watching this. And, it's a solid little drama. Then there is I Care a Lot, which is alright. Then there was Carnage, which is not a movie that has venom in it or anything. This is a movie about the parents of these kids who fight, like at school. And they have like this meeting about whose fault the fight was. And like things just don't go quite as respectably as they're kind of intending at the start. At the start they're all polite, they're all smiling, then by the end they're all arguing and blaming each other and all that sort of stuff. And it's just a clever little movie that probably went for a little bit too long, but I liked it. Then there was Dogtooth, which I didn't finish. I understand why some people like this, but I think if you've seen it, you can understand why I didn't. Dogtooth, I think, is just a movie that wasn't made for me. Then there was The Girl Next Door, which is a fucking weird movie that I would not recommend to a lot of people. It's very low budget. It is about basically a group of boys who like keep a girl in their basement, and the mum is knowledgeable about it too, and they're just keeping her in there and like torturing her. It starts out kind of like a Stand By Me type of movie about like a group of kids and they're just friends and they're hanging out, and like it's not that great, but it was kind of like charming, I suppose, in a low budget type of way. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know, these kids, they're friends and stuff, I get it. And then they like just torture this girl, and it gets, some of it's kind of sexual, and it's just like, man, that's icky. Like the problem is it wasn't trying to say anything. There was not really any point to it. It wasn't clever about it. It wasn't creative. It wasn't like, it was just exploitive. It was just gross. It's just not a good movie. Then there was His House, which is a movie on Netflix about this couple who have moved to England, I believe, and they're immigrants, and then it's basically all about how in certain ways they feel like they don't belong there, and how the house itself, you know, it starts to feel like the house itself is telling them that they don't belong there in very scary supernatural ways. And it's really good. Then there's The Theory of Everything, which I think is a pretty solid movie. Then there was Seven Psychopaths, which I fucking love. Seven Psychopaths is so damn good. Do I have it facing? I don't have it facing, but I got it over here. Yeah. Watched it for the first time this year and absolutely blown away. I can't believe I didn't watch it earlier. Then there's Love and Monsters, which is a Dylan O'Brien movie about monsters and love, I suppose. I guess, yeah. And it's a dog. There's a dog. It's not a dog. There is a dog. I don't know. It's cute. It's okay. Then there's Naked Gun. I also watch Naked Gun too. You know what? Leslie Nelson is so funny. I was expecting these movies to just be kind of cringe and just be like full of dad humor and really outdated offensive humor. Not too bad on the offensive part. It's probably full of dad humor if I'm being honest, but hey, I thought it was funny, okay? I also watched Airplane, which is in the same vein. I liked him quite a bit. Yeah, I'd never seen those before. I'm glad I watched him. I didn't watch Naked Gun 3, but I probably will at some point. Then I watched Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which is really, really, really strong. It's a really good movie about a girl going to the city to get an abortion, basically, and she is joined by her cousin, I believe, and it's just about the struggles of getting that, and how uncomfortable it is for her, basically. You know, I feel bad for this character. It's good. And then there was White Men Can't Jump, and man, this movie is like fun as hell. I really like White Men Can't Jump. Then there is Stuba, which was fine. Then there was 10 Years, which is about a 10-year high school reunion. It's got Channing Tatum in it and a bunch of other actors, and I actually kind of liked it. It felt like nostalgic, felt relatable in some ways, even though I'm not quite at the 10-year gap yet. I'm not quite at that age. A few more years though, and I will be, which is scary. Then there was Good Boys, which is a comedy about these kids. It's kind of like a super bad, but about younger kids, and it was entertaining. Good half watch, you know? It's like, yeah, you don't need to like pay full attention to this. It's just like, it's funny at points, it's whatever at points, it's okay. Then there was The Riot Club, which is a movie that made me so angry. The Riot Club is about these rich little boys who feel like they can do anything that they want and prove that they can do anything that they want, that they can get away with anything because they're rich, and it's just frustrating, man. The Riot Club is a really good one though. Then I watched Mortal Kombat 1995, the original Mortal Kombat movie. It was okay. Then there was Time Freak, which is another, like The Map of Tiny Perfect Things, another time-travel-y teenage rom-com type of thing that I liked a lot. Then there was the original Child's Play. Yeah, the original Child's Play I hadn't seen. I started watching all these movies for the Child's Play death ranking and movie ranking that I made earlier, last year at this point. I also watched Child's Play 2, I hadn't seen that. I also watched Child's Play 3, I hadn't seen that. And I also watched Bride and Seed of Chucky. Now, I had seen Bride of Chucky, and I had seen, I think, Seed of Chucky as well, but not for many years. And I don't think I ever finished, at least... No, either of them. I don't think I finished either of them. So I'm counting them as first-time watches, even though they may be technically rewatches. But I watched them all this year so that I could make a big-ass video about them and so I could watch the TV show. So, yeah. And I'm a pretty big Child's Play fan now, to be honest. I loved the 2019 remake, which was the first Child's Play movie that I ever saw, which I know is sacrilege, but hey. Then there's Cult and Curse of Chucky, which I also think are really good. I like them quite a bit. I don't like Seed of Chucky all that much. I don't really like Bride of Chucky. So it's funny that those were technically the first ones that I watched, like when I was younger, because those turned out to be by far my least favorite. So maybe that's why I didn't really watch all the others up until now, because I'm like, well, Seed of Chucky sucked, so why would I watch any of the others? Surely they can't be that good. But they kind of are. Then there was The Gentleman, Guy Ritchie's movie about a bunch of English gangsters. Does that sum it up for you? It's one of those. Then there was Enter the Dragon, which I got from my friend Tristan at the Martial Arts Film Freak YouTube channel. And yeah, it was heaps better than I was expecting it to be. I'm like, look, this doesn't really seem like it's up my alley, but it's such a classic, so I'm going to watch it. And I liked it. I liked it a lot, legitimately. Then there was The Night Comes For Us, which is not It Comes at Night. The Night Comes For Us. Which one is that? Oh no. I'm pretty sure I love this movie. What is it? Ah, right. It's the martial arts movie. Speaking of martial arts movies, sorry, I got confused with the other movie, It Comes at Night, just then. The Night Comes for Us is a martial arts movie that is better than The Raid, if you ask me. It is like visceral in its violence. I love it. Then there is 1 Hour Photo, which is a Robin Williams film about him basically being a creep who obsesses over this family, particularly this woman. And he works at like a photo development place, like where you had to, you used to have to go get your film developed and everything, like at a shop. And it was kind of like this interesting like time era, like this time capsule to view, where it's like, oh my god, how inconvenient. Just to get photos, you gotta go interact with people, you gotta go pay for it. Now we just have these things and it's like so easy. But yeah, back then you had to do that. But yeah, this is basically a movie about this guy obsessing over this woman, learning about her life through the photos that she's getting developed because he is the one doing that. And that is creepy to think about. It's also kind of a retroactive metaphor on the obsession with social media and the dangers of sharing too much. It definitely didn't do that on purpose because social media wasn't really a thing when this movie was made in the late 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, retroactively, it actually made me kind of think, shit, like what have people pieced together about my life through what I've posted? It's kind of creepy. Then there is Hide and Seek, which is okay. Robert De Niro, what's her name? Dakota Fanning. Mystery, supernaturally thriller type of thing. And it's okay. Then there is Night of the Living Dead, which is a horror comedy with zombies. And it's bad. I thought I was going to love it, but yeah, not really. Then there was Deep Blue Sea. Speaking of things I love, Deep Blue Sea is one of my favorite movies that I watched this year. I've said that numerous times now, I know, but Deep Blue Sea, man. Deep Blue Sea got to my heart and it will never let go. It's kind of like a shark's fin. My hat is like a shark's fin. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Deep Blue Sea is amazing. Don't care what you say. Then there's How Do You Know Chris, which is a very independent Australian movie about a group of people who are attending a party. It's about a group of people who are attending a party of this guy named Chris, who they all knew, but not well, or they used to know, like a long time ago. And they've all like been invited to this party and they're not quite sure why, they're not quite sure what the intentions are or where Chris is. And yeah, you kind of see how that unfolds. It's interesting. It's not like the best movie ever, but it's clearly like this independent kind of movie where they're learning the ropes, it seems like. It doesn't feel like, it's not the most well-crafted piece of cinema you'll ever see in your life, but it's interesting. Okay, and then there was Black Box, which I just had to look up because I forgot what Black Box was. And I loved this movie. Oh man, I wish it had a more memorable title. This is a movie, I'll just read the synopsis. This is a movie about, after losing his wife and memory in a car accident, a single father undergoes an agonizing experimental treatment that causes him to question who he really is. I loved this movie. Recommend. Then there was Doom, the 2005 Doom with The Rock in it. This is another one, much like Good Boys, that is a good half watch. I think I was making thumbnails as I watched this. I didn't really need to fully watch it. In fact, I watched the first half and I'm like, man, this is alright, but it's kind of boring. And then I started making thumbnails and half watching and I'm like, hey, this movie's fun as shit. So, hey, say what you will about that. I know that you should, usually I would dedicate all of my time and attention to a movie. But when it comes to a movie like Doom, it's who cares? I'll just, yeah. It's rare that I do half watch something, but sometimes I will. And with Doom, it just felt like the right time and place to do that. Then 62 was Rogue. This is a movie about a giant crocodile. Then there's Lake Placid. This is a movie about a giant crocodile. Yeah, I had a bit of a phase in the middle of the year. Rogue is heaps better than Lake Placid, I will say. Then 47 Meters Down, Uncaged, and the original 47 Meters Down. I watched the sequel first, though. These are shark movies. Yeah, I was obsessed for a little bit there with water horror movies. Sharks and crocodiles and just water, because next up was also Ghost Ship, which is about a haunted ship. Has the best opening maybe ever of a horror movie that I've ever seen in my life. That is so cool! And then the rest of the movie does not follow up on this at all, and it's just a standard horror movie that's fine. Very disappointing as opposed to the opening though. 47 Meters Down, just jumping back, is a couple movies that I really enjoyed. Then there's Rock and Roller, which is basically another movie much like The Gentleman, just about a group of, it's a few different criminals that are opposing each other in certain ways. It's kind of like a Pulp Fiction, but I didn't think it was that good, to be honest. Then there was the ABCs of Death, which is maybe the worst movie I watched this year. The ABCs of Death is a movie made up of 26 different segments, independently made horror segments, and they're at best okay, and at worst unwatchable. Then there was Falling Down, which is basically the original Joker movie. This has Michael Douglas in it. As he reigns over a city, he just wreaks havoc as he pleases throughout the city, and some police characters chase him down. And it's good. You know, it's problematic in some ways, but that's not really how I viewed it. I was just watching kind of this thriller movie about the main character who is obviously the bad guy. It's not like I was watching and I'm like, oh my god, this could be my life. I should go gun people down in the street and whatever else he does. No, not at all. He's clearly the bad guy. You're not rooting for him, but yeah, I don't know. It's a good movie though. Then there was Meander, which is a movie that I only watched thanks to my mate Bruce Perky, who recommended it. This is kind of like a Saw/Cube movie about a woman who finds herself stuck in a series of vents. But throughout these vents, there are also these specific challenges, you know, like she has to get to a certain point at this vent before everything blows up. There'll be a fire vent. There'll be a water vent that's slowly or quickly rising with water. And if she doesn't find, I don't know, the key or some shit to get out of this particular vent, she's about to drown. It's just a bunch of a series of little death challenges like that through a series of vents that this woman has found herself in. Obviously, much like all of these types of movies, the start of the movie is basically just her waking up in this vent. That's how these all start. She gets kidnapped. You do see a little bit before that. But yeah, it's basically just about this woman trying to survive, and it's a great little intense thriller. Then there is The Butterfly Effect 2, which, my god, is not as good as The Butterfly Effect 1, which is a movie that I'm a huge apologist for. I love the first Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher. I think it is honestly brilliant. I really like it. Butterfly Effect 2, not so much. Then there was Jurassic Park 2, which, yeah, Jurassic Park 2 is good. I've never seen 2. I'd never seen 3 either, and I still haven't. I didn't watch 3. Then there was The Fly, the 1986 version of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. This is a movie that I should have watched a long time ago. The Fly is honestly something that had me hooked from the very start up until the very end. Nothing short of fucking brilliant. The Fly honestly deserves the huge respect that it has earned. It is a movie that really surprisingly blew me away. It felt modern. It felt like it really knew what it was doing when it came to the practical effects and all that stuff. It really knew what it's doing when it came to the characterization of the main character and the kind of blossoming romance of the woman character in this movie. I don't remember either of the characters' names, but yeah, no, The Fly is, I love it. I love The Fly very much. I should buy it on Blu-ray. Then there was Mad Max 2, which I only watched for my mate over there, Eric, at the Unapologetic Film Geek YouTube channel. And my god, as he knows, I didn't love Mad Max 2. As his subscribers also know, because I flacked a lot of shit in his video. That wasn't my favorite time. But Eric has a great channel over there. And yeah. He made some great videos that go really in depth about the making of a film and also some objective analysis about a film. He's very educational, and you'll learn a lot of interesting shit about older movies from his channel. Yeah, he had me over to talk about Mad Max 2, which was a movie I hadn't seen, and I thought it was just boring. I didn't think it was bad. It's a well-made film and everything. I understand why some people really love it. It just wasn't for me. I found it a bit boring. But yeah, the people that watch him regularly did not like that opinion. Then there was The Assistant, which is a movie about a woman who's working in an abusive office environment. You feel very bad for her, and you never see the boss's face, which I really kind of like that element. And it's definitely an allegory. It's like a metaphor for Harvey Weinstein. I never outright say it, but you get that feeling. Then there is Big Bad Wolves, which is a movie that is fucking, oh man, it's kind of problematic in some ways, I suppose. It is about a man who is a pedophile who gets off on a technicality or whatever, and he doesn't get blamed for the case that happens, but the father of one of his victims and a disgruntled cop leaves the force so that they can both, well, they don't know it at the time, it's not planned, but then they work together to take him down. And basically the rest of the movie is that they've kidnapped him and they've got him in a basement, and it's basically, shit, what the fuck do we do with him now? And it's a surprisingly dark comedy. It's actually sort of a comedy movie that goes in some really complex ways when it comes to who you can sympathize with, because no one is the good guy in this situation. Arguably, some people are definitely better than others, but everyone's kind of a bad guy here, and it's interesting. I really like Big Bad Wolf. Then there is Shark Night, which, you know, with my obsession with shark movies, crocodile movies, water horror movies, I thought I would watch Shark Night, which is honestly one of the worst shark movies that could ever exist, if you ask me. Not good. Also, they're sharks, but they're in like a lake. And I'm like, does that make sense? Is this like fresh water? I don't know. Anyway, then I watched The Village, M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, which I had never seen before, but I knew the twist already, so that kind of wrecked it a little bit for me. I feel like I would have loved this movie if I didn't already know the twist. I can see how this is great if you don't know the twist. I thought it was just okay, like, I liked it, but yeah, didn't blow my mind because I knew what the twist was. Then there was Short Term 12, which is a movie that really affected me. This is a movie about these people who work at like a children's like home, like foster care type of place, where they're all there because like they are in bad situations in life. Either they're orphans or they're, you know, they've run into some trouble in their lives, all that kind of stuff. And it's about these the adults who basically help them and befriend them in a professional setting. And it's just about helping these kids, and like it made me feel like a huge piece of shit because I'm not doing anything like that. It's a beautiful movie. Then there was My Octopus Teacher. This is a documentary. I think it's the first documentary that I've mentioned on this list at all, and it may be the last. I don't watch a lot of documentaries. This is about a man who wants to fuck an octopus. Sorry, it just kind of is. It just kind of is. No, but it is, honestly, it is about him kind of befriending something that is of a different species. And it's kind of their relationship. This man goes into the ocean, like, daily, every single day, to the same place to visit this octopus and see how it's developing. And it is interesting. It's shot well. There are some beautiful shots in this movie. But I do feel like he's intervening a little bit in some weird ways. I feel like, I don't know, it's like instead of spending time with your family, you're going to go obsess over this octopus, and it feels weird. You're obsessing a bit much. I don't know how to explain it. The guy just had these weird vibes. But I liked it. I did like it. Then there was You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix. I actually didn't finish this one. I need to get back onto it. I wasn't feeling it that night, but I haven't fucking gotten back onto it yet. And this was months ago. Whoops. Then there was Slacks, which is a movie about evil killer jeans. That's right, pants. Killer jeans that kill people in a shop. And this is a movie that was fun and I liked. Like, it had a good premise and everything, but it really overstated its welcome. It's like, yeah, this is funny. And then they do it again and it's like, yeah, this is funny. And then they do it again. Like, it's just jeans killing people. It's like, that can only be funny for so long, you know? Kind of, it just keeps doing the same joke over and over and over. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't that funny anymore by the end of the movie. Then I watched Vicious Fun, which is a movie about a guy who accidentally stumbles into this self-help group of serial killers. And he pretends to be a serial killer from then on, and it's basically just this like, are they gonna find out or not? It's kind of fun. Then I watched Gremlins 2 for the first time. I'd never seen Gremlins 2, and fuck yeah, Gremlins 2 is pretty damn fun. I like it a lot. There's like a meta humor in there and everything, and yeah, I probably don't like it as much as the first one, but you know, it's zany, it's fun, I like it. Then there was 2001 A Space Odyssey, which I had never seen before, which I thought was hot take, good. Then I watched NYX 13 Minutes of Horror Film Fest Folklore, which is literally a 13-minute movie. It's a short, made up of minute-long segments, 13 of them. And it's very independent. And some of them, 2 or 3 of them, are quite interesting. The rest of them really look like they have been shot just on a phone with absolutely no effort, much like my YouTube channel. That's not true. I put heaps of effort into this. Shut up. Then I watched Memories of a Murder, which is a Bong Joon-ho movie. This is probably my least favorite Bong Joon-ho movie. I rate Parasite higher, I rate Snowpiercer higher, Okja higher, but you know, it's good. I can see why people love it, but I probably don't love it as much as everybody else does, but it's solid. Then there was Cyrus. This is a movie with John C. Reilly and Jonah Hill in it, and it is not as comedic as you might expect it to be. It's kind of a drama, kind of a comedy about this guy, John C. Reilly, who is trying to date a woman, but she has this son who is basically like this obsessive mama's boy. And yeah, it's okay. I went into this expecting it to be like this standard comedy, but it's more of like an independent mumblecore type of thing. And I'm not really into that subgenre all that much, but I ended up thinking it was alright. Then there was Take Shelter with Michael Shannon, and it is about him obsessing over the inevitability of a giant storm that is going to take place in his little town. And whether he is just going insane, whether he is having these real visions of this thing that is definitely going to happen, all about whether he is right or not, and whether, even if he is right or not, whether his actions are right in terms of trying to protect everybody. And yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Then I watched Almost Famous. Hadn't seen it before. Pretty good. Then I watched Fire Festival, the Fire Festival doc. Just called Fire, I believe. This is about a festival, a music festival that took place a few years ago, but that actually didn't take place because there were a lot of issues, and it's basically a documentary that explores just how much you can fuck up an event. It's kind of a hilarious watch as you watch these people who clearly just don't know what the fuck they're doing create this event that's going on, and basically how they drown out all of their money through this at an event that pretty much never really happened. Definitely sucks for some of the people who tried to go to this, but yeah, it was definitely an interesting watch. I feel very bad for the workers, some of the people that got hired at the place where the festival was supposed to take place, because they never got paid. And it's like, fuck, that's, you know, before it was funny because they fucked up a lot. Now it's like, okay, you're an asshole, the people that were behind this, including Ja Rule, the rapper. That's the only person I remember being in it. But yeah, absolute dumbasses behind this event. An interesting documentary. It also shows how easily things can get fucked up too. Like how much an oversight can happen so easily. Like it's like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have thought of that either, even though it seems very obvious. Like there's this one part where they're like, you need to put toilets there, you know? And it's like with everything else that's going on, it's like, shit. Yeah, obviously toilets, but like it didn't come to you at that moment, and I can kind of understand that. But it's also like you're creating this multi-million-dollar fucking event. You should probably think to put toilets there, man. Anyway, then there was A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, which is this movie from, I believe, 2005. It's got Robert Downey Jr. in it, Channing Tatum in it, Shia LaBeouf, and a bunch of other people. And it's basically like this coming-of-age movie set in New York that I liked. I liked it a bit. Didn't love it, but yeah. Then there was The Hills Have Eyes, which is this was the 2006 remake, which is a movie about a family who are like, you know, going across the country. They're going on a road trip, but there are these killers and mutants and whatever who stop them. And I gotta be honest, I didn't love this. I would have expected that this would have been pretty up my alley, but I didn't love it. Speaking of, though, I did love the next one called Feedback, which is much like Prime Time, which I watched earlier in the year. This is about a radio presenter who basically gets taken hostage in his own radio room, whatever that, like the recording studio. And yeah, it's basically all about something that may have happened in his past. And it's really interesting. I love this movie a lot. Huge recommend. Then there was Dope, which is a movie that came out a few years ago that I've been meaning to watch forever, but it was never streaming anywhere. I finally found that it was for rent on YouTube for just a few dollars. So I'm like, all right, I'll watch it. And it was okay. I didn't love it quite as much as I've heard other people say, but I definitely didn't hate it. Then there was Brick, which is a movie that I honestly didn't really like that much. This is an early movie from, what's his name? Ryan Johnson. It's a neo-noir mystery movie, but it's set at a high school. Then I watched Underwater with Kristen Stewart, and it is about a giant under the sea monster. Then I watched The Last Blockbuster, and it turns out I did watch a few documentaries this year, I suppose. This is a documentary that I very much enjoyed watching because it was nostalgic. I miss Blockbuster and all that stuff. But I have to say that I didn't think it was that informative. I didn't really think that... I thought that it should have been focused on a little more. They should have wrote it a bit heavier. They should have been like, okay, what else can we do? What can we put some graphics up? Can we do this, do that? I felt like it was a bit bare bones, I suppose. It was kind of all anecdotal information. It wasn't really that, like, I would have appreciated some more statistics. I would have appreciated some more information like that, like objective information, but I felt like it was really mainly just about the family that owns The Last Blockbuster more than anything. And yeah, I enjoyed watching it because Blockbuster, it gets to my heart, and it was fun watching people reminisce, but I didn't think it was, I just didn't think it was informative enough, if I'm being honest. I would really like to watch a similar documentary that focuses on some of the information a bit more. Then I watched Dead Poets Society, another Robin Williams film. This is like a classic, it's the captain or captain, whatever. It was okay. I didn't really like the first 2/3 of this movie, if I'm being honest. But then that last third happens, and I'm like, damn. Like, I remember I was kind of like, oh my god, this is a slog to get through during the first half. But by the end of the movie, me and my wife are like, talking so much about it, and we're like, holy shit, did we like this movie a lot? And I think the answer is yes. Then there is VHS Viral. Yeah, I hadn't seen any of the other VHS movies except the first one briefly. VHS Viral, though, I really hated. It's my least favorite VHS movie. I then watched VHS 2, and I then watched VHS 1. Completely out of order. I thought 2 was okay. I thought 2 was pretty good, I suppose. I thought 1 and 3 were bad, and I thought 4 was like quite good. Then I watched Halloween 3, which was one that I've always skipped because it didn't have Michael Myers in it, and I'm like, I don't care. So I watched it, and I still don't care. Halloween 3 I thought was easily the weakest Halloween film. Maybe ahead of, fucking Resurrection. But I didn't enjoy it very much. Then I watched Psycho Goreman. Psycho Goreman is easily one of my favorite movies of this year. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. Psycho Goreman is a huge recommend for anyone who is into horror comedies. It's ridiculous. It's so fucking silly. It is about this like evil space alien monster thing who comes to Earth to basically kill everybody, destroy Earth itself. But a little girl gets hold of this like piece of jewelry. I think it's a ring. And basically it's like this magical ring that makes Psycho Goreman have to do what the person who wears the ring says. So basically it is about this little girl controlling this earth-destroying monster, and the monster has to do everything that the girl says, and they kind of befriend each other, and it's hilarious and it's silly. The little girl, by the way, is not that good an actor, but she just has this fucking wild confidence that it's just so funny. Like, her lines are so awkward, but like, it almost seems like it's on purpose because it's so funny. Yeah, I love this movie with all my heart. Then I watched Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which I watched because of my buddy Pete Abada over there at the Middle Class Film Class, which is a great podcast. Didn't love it. Sorry, man. Didn't love it. I didn't tell you. So if you're watching this movie, you know now. I'm talking to you. I didn't message you to tell you I watched it and then I didn't love it because I didn't want to break your little heart, man. I'm sure you don't care that much. I'm sure you really don't care that much. But yeah, just didn't like it all that much. Sorry. Then I watched The Hills Have Eyes 2, which I didn't mention earlier. Yeah, not any better than the first. Then I watched My Bloody Valentine, which was alright. Then I watched 1114, which is a movie about a different group of people who are all involved in this particular road accident that takes place during the night. And it's all about how they get to the certain points that they get to at the certain times that they get to. The accident that takes place at 1114 and how that affects everybody's own particular stories from their perspectives. Definitely very interesting. It's also pretty funny in some ways as well. I really enjoy it. It's kind of like Pulp Fiction light. Then I watched I Saw the Devil, which was okay. I didn't love it quite as much as I was expecting. Okay, then I watched Come True, which I forgot what that was. Had to look it up just now. Definitely a very interesting movie for the first half and kind of peters out by the second half, but I'd recommend it to some people that might think it looks interesting. If you look it up, yeah, make up your own mind. Then I watched a few different, more documentaries, I guess, kind of. This guy named Darren Brown. I watched The Push, Sacrifice, and The Apocalypse. Okay, so this guy is basically like this illusionist, magician man, but it's really more so than being reliant on magic. It's about like social experiments, and it's basically about how he can make anybody believe anything, presumably. I don't know if I particularly buy into all of the things, okay? I feel like maybe it's staged, okay? I do get that feeling. There's a lot of debate about that online, whether things are staged or not, whether they're actually just actors that are in these experiments and stuff. But I optimistically really bought in while I was watching them, at least. I think that maybe he is just trying to like pull the wool over our eyes. Is that what the term is? He's trying to trick us, okay? And I think that very well may be the case, but I still think that he has some interesting things to say about humanity. Okay, so the first one that I watched, called The Push, is probably the best one. This is about, basically, it's about this guy, and they've got this whole place set up. It's like this fundraiser event, but everybody there is an actor except the one guy that they're doing the experiment on. And basically they keep escalating this situation so that this one guy has a heart attack, okay? But because the fundraiser is about to take place, they convince this guy to hide the body, which... Okay, maybe I don't know if I buy it or not, because the way that they kind of argue it while it's happening and you're overwhelmed and stuff, maybe you do buy into it. I feel like I never would have hid the body. I feel like I never would have done some of the things that these people do. But anyway, it escalates from there. They hide the body, the fundraiser takes place, then somebody mistakes the guy that they're trying to trick for the guy who is presumably dead, and he takes his identity and pretends to be him, and it keeps escalating from there and there. There is a like dummy fake dead body involved, which also makes me start to think it's staged, because how could you not notice? But then they show you how they made the doll, and it's fucking hyper realistic, and it's like, fuck, maybe you would buy into that. I don't know. It really blurs the lines between reality and possible fakery. I don't know if I believe it. And then he's got these other two, Sacrifice, which is about whether, tricking somebody basically into taking a bullet for somebody else. And then the other one, Apocalypse, which is basically faking a zombie apocalypse. And they do it through this really manipulative way. He's just gaslighting people left, right, and center, where he is like literally making this guy who is just living his normal life hear things on the radio in a random cafe that's talking about the apocalypse. Or like they literally hack into his phone so that news things will come up telling him about the zombie apocalypse. And I'm like, that is too much fucking power. This is wrong. This is a bad thing to do. This is horrible, but it's freaking interesting. I don't know if it's real, but I really enjoyed it. I would maybe recommend it if that sounds interesting. Then I watched The Running Man, which I had never seen before, and I didn't love it as much as I was expecting, being like a fight to the death type of movie, but like I can see why people definitely did love it. I didn't hate it. It was good. Then there was Haunt, which is another similar type of thing, I suppose, where it's people going into like this haunted house type of attraction, and then it turns out to be real. Ooh. Then I watched Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson, which is basically like this very serious horror version of Borat, where she is literally driving through the streets of England, I believe, or somewhere like that, and she's picking up men who are unaware that they are shooting a movie. And yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. And from there, it gets a bit more into the horror aspect, and I liked it quite a lot. Then I watched What Dreams May Come. I watched quite a lot of Robin Williams movies this year, I suppose. Didn't love this one. It was weird. This was about him dying and going to the afterlife, and it was just a little bit, I don't know, schmaltzy. Is that the word? Then there was Batman 1989, and yeah, I hadn't seen Batman 1989 ever before. It was alright. Basically what you'd expect, I don't know. You don't need me to tell you what that is. Then there is Saint Maud, which was one of my favorite movies of the year. If it came out this year, I counted it in my 2021 movies video list, but technically I think this is a 2019 movie, not even 2020. But I didn't get the chance to see it till this year, so I don't know. Saint Maud is about the dangers of blind faith, and I really enjoyed it. Then I watched Thunder Road. This is a Jim Cummings film about this guy who loses his mother and is also a cop, and loses his mind, basically. It's got a fantastic central performance by this guy who knows how to blend the comedy between, like, yeah, you laugh at him, but you feel bad for him. He's such a tragic character, but he's also a genuinely good character trying to do good. You really feel for him in some ways, but then he does some wild bullshit that you just... Like, it's so crazy how many different ways he can take this character and still have it be a believable human being. I really fucking respect this movie quite a lot. Then I watched Paths of Glory, another one thanks to the Middle Class Film Class. They recommended that on their podcast. Paths of Glory is a movie about World War II, and it is basically about these soldiers who retreat in this hopeless situation. There's fucking no possible way that they could have got out of it. It was so obvious that this was just a suicide mission. So they retreat. And it's basically just about how, whether they did the wrong thing or not, and it's about, well, basically the officers who want to execute them over this. And it's such bullshit. My God, this movie made me angry. Much like The Riot Club that I watched earlier in the year, this is an infuriating film. But it's also fucking... this is a Stanley Kubrick film from, I believe it was 1959. I might be pulling that number out of my ass. Yeah. Then I watched Animal Kingdom, which is a Australian crime movie, and it was pretty good. Then there was Wanderlust, which I half watched. I was making thumbnails. This has Paul Rudd in it. It was okay. just another one like Doom. Like, I half watched this. Same with 30 Minutes or Less. Jesse Eisenberg movie where he gets basically kidnapped or whatever the word is. They strap a bomb to his... I don't know. It was fine. It wasn't that good, actually. It was pretty bad. Then I watched Happiest Season, which is a Christmas movie, a Christmas rom-com about these two women who are in a relationship. They go to one of their families. The other doesn't know that the other hasn't come out to them yet. And it's basically just all about that. I thought that this was a great example of a really toxic relationship, if I'm being honest. I really didn't enjoy the central relationship because of the character who didn't tell the other about her family. She was basically just this liar that I could not get behind. She did not respect her partner, and they kept trying to make it seem all cute and stuff. And I'm like, leave that girl, man. Leave her. And it made me really not enjoy this movie all that much, if I'm being honest. But it wasn't bad. Like, I liked it. There were some funny moments. It was good on a drama level. I just thought it ended up going in kind of the wrong direction. When it came to one of these characters just being a bitch, man, I just thought that she really didn't respect her partner, and it bothered me. Then I watched Other People, which was another one that I'm going to say was one of my favorite movies of the year. This is a Jesse Plemons movie about him dealing with the fact that his mum is going to die. She has cancer. And yeah, it's just kind of and it's just kind of like this family dramedy from there. And I really like it because it's tragic, but it's funny. It's really human. I like it. Hey, I somehow screwed up my notes earlier today when I was filming all of the movies I watched during the year, as you know, because I've intercut this into the video. And I didn't mention my rewatches. Somehow I screwed up my notes there, and yeah, no rewatches. So it's 11:30 now, and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't mention rewatches. Thought I'd do that. That's what I'm doing. Self-explanatory, right? Okay, so we already thought this video was long enough, or at least I did. But let's get to rewatches now as well. Alright, first up. First rewatch was Antebellum, which is a horror movie that deals with like racial themes as well, and it's fantastic. Not a hugely respected film for some reason though. A lot of people think it's kind of like trite. It's very obvious on the nose and not that creative, and it's been done in certain ways. And I highly disagree. I think it's a fantastic movie. And I rewatched it to show my mum, as most of these rewatches probably will be, because that's just what I do a lot of the time. I show my parents, like, my dad's there maybe half the time. He's there more often than not nowadays, actually. But yeah, I show my parents these movies, so that's what a lot of these rewatches will be. Same goes for Ratatouille, which I watched nearing the start of 2021. Classic Pixar. Honestly, one of my favorites, probably, maybe second favorite, just behind Monsters, Inc., I think. That rhymed. Yeah, I don't know. That's not like a definitive ranking. I don't know. Soul is up there. Inside Out is up there. Finding Nemo's up there. But they're all around the top 5. Monsters, Inc. is the definitive number 1. Then 3, I watched Jigsaw, which, you know, it's Jigsaw. It's good. But then that got me in the mood. And leading up till Spiral coming out, that got me in the mood to watch all of the Saw movies. Like, all of them. So I watched all the Saw movies. Saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah, I'm a big fan of those, and I needed to rewatch them as a refresher for some videos that I made last year as well. So yeah, I watched them all then. Then I watched Wrong Turn 2 and Wrong Turn 3. I didn't watch any of the other ones. I don't have the first one on DVD and it wasn't streaming, so I'm like, fuck it, I'll watch 2. And then I didn't care to watch anymore after 3, I suppose, because you know why? It's because 2 and 3 were much worse than I remembered them being. I still like them. I enjoyed watching them, but they're objectively not great. And I remembered like thinking they were pretty underrated back in the day. They're fairly rated in retrospect. I then watched Zootopia, rewatched that to show my parents. Also, same goes with Tangled. They were getting sick of like me showing them horrible things. I guess that goes in from last year before that. So yeah, that's where we went on our Pixar run with Ratatouille. And then, Zootopia and Tangled are just Disney and not Pixar. But yeah, that's why I rewatched those. And then there was Midsummer, which we watched next because, there was a bit too much of the nice stuff. I had to watch Midsummer, which was a movie that I really didn't like the first time that I watched it in cinemas. I was quite disappointed by it because I was such a big fan of Hereditary. And then I just thought Midsummer was kind of middling. I enjoyed aspects to it, but I thought some of it was a bit like... I just didn't enjoy it as much as I was expecting, especially since I loved the first half, and then halfway through that movie, I'm like, wait, I haven't been liking this for quite a while. Do I not like this movie? But in rewatching it, I kind of found a new love for it, knowing what to expect and everything. I think it's pretty ingenious. I like the kind of point that it makes about, how the cult will, kind of like what I mentioned earlier in the Marlene, kind of what I mentioned with that, where like it's clear that the cult is kind of targeting, people who feel vulnerable, and that's Danny in this movie. She's definitely in this vulnerable state. Then when the cult kind of brings her in, it's the first time she's felt accepted and loved like in a long time, because she's all like alone. And I think that is really brilliant, as it's kind of like this fake happy ending for her, because it's really not a happy ending at all. I know a lot of people speak specifically about Midsummer being a good for her movie. That's what it's been remarked as lately. And I'm like, the ending of Midsummer is not good for her. Like, she has been totally victimized and she is being completely manipulated. Yes, she thinks she's happy and she's powerful, but she's actually not. And I think that's kind of the genius of it. It's a really dark ending, actually. And yeah, I found a new love for Midsummer, and I respect that movie quite a bit. This was the director's cut, by the way, if that makes any difference. There were just a few scenes put in there for some extra context, and I appreciate it, but it was very long. This was like 3 hours long. I then rewatched Monsters, Inc. again to show my parents. As I said, that's my favorite Pixar one, but when I watched this with them, they didn't love it, and I was kind of like bummed out by that, to be honest. They said that they liked it, but I could feel in my heart they weren't laughing that much. When you show somebody a movie and they're clearly not enjoying it that much, and it's just kind of awkward? Yeah, I had that with my parents watching Monsters, Inc. Last year. Then I watched the Wrong Turn remake with them as well. As I said, all my rewatches were basically with my parents. I wanted to show them that the Wrong Turn remake was actually a pretty damn respectable film in the horror genre and everything. They're not the biggest horror fans or anything, but I like to show them that stuff a lot, the better ones, just to show them that, like, good stuff comes out of this. And, like, they're not massive fans, but they will definitely like something that is, like, good. Does that make any sense? Of course it does. So yeah, and they did enjoy it. Then I watched Terrifier, which is a movie that I know a lot of horror fans really highly respect and love that movie quite a lot. It's about like this evil clown who kills people, basically, and that's about it. It's not hugely in depth. But the thing about Terrifier is that it's always been a movie that I didn't really like all that much, but I've always like felt like I was missing out. I was getting FOMO. Everyone's like loving it. I'm like, what the hell did I miss last time I watched it? So I tried it again. Still sucks. I don't get it. I don't get Terrifier or why people like it, if I'm being honest. It's just hugely unpleasant. Like, I know that I'm a fan of movies like Saw and whatever, but there's intelligence within like the story there. There's like a thick, heavy plot with all the twists and stuff. That's what attracts me to Saw. But when it comes to Terrifier, it's just brutality for brutality's sake. In a way that I don't feel like Saw is. I know a lot of people say that it is, but I think that to those people, watch Terrifier. That's brutality for brutality's sake. And we're just watching just gore for no reason, and it's not entertaining, it's not particularly well done. I don't really like Terrifier very much. I've tried it multiple times now and it's never worked for me, so I think it's time to accept that it's just not for me. I then rewatched Unhinged again to show my parents. This is that Russell Crowe movie where he has road rage and follows after this one particular woman who he has a bit of a run-in in traffic earlier in that day. The whole movie takes place in this one day as he terrorizes her. It's kind of like this on-the-road slasher movie, sort of. And it gets surprisingly brutal. at certain points, and I quite like this movie, to be honest. I know a lot of people don't hugely rate this one like as being a great film or anything, and sure, it's probably not going to be remembered as a classic, but I thought it was worth a rewatch. I then rewatched Eden Lake because that was a movie I remember loving when I was younger, and I hadn't seen it in a while, and I'm like, Michael Fassbender's in it, and I remember it being really brutal. Let's get into it. And yeah, that is one hell of a solid movie. I even wrote out a script, a video about it that I never ended up like editing and putting together and stuff. But if anyone's interested in that, I do have it shot and everything. I just haven't edited it. If you're interested, maybe I'll finish that video at some point. After that, I then rewatched Curse of Chucky. I mentioned earlier that I hadn't seen the Chucky movies. Sorry, straight up lie. I had seen Curse of Chucky. This is the 2013 one. Not a remake, as I thought it was, I think, when I watched it for the first time back then. No, this is a direct sequel to Seed of Chucky, although it doesn't feel like it. Technically, it is. Curse of Chucky is kind of taking things back to its roots, where it's this creepy kind of haunted house Chucky movie. And it's like really effective in that way, to be honest. It kind of holds back on the laughs and goes more into like the creepy. And I really like that tone from this, to be honest. I think it's pretty good. I then rewatched Spider-Man Far From Home in anticipation for Spider-Man No Way Home that was coming out a few months in advance after that. I watched this a bit early, to be honest. I probably should have waited a bit. Yeah, Far From Home is good. Mysterio is great, you know. Yeah. Then I rewatched Halloween by Rob Zombie, the Halloween remake. This was around Halloween time. This is a movie much like Terrifier that I think I just have to accept is really not for me. I have a complicated relationship with it because I like what it's going for. I actually don't mind that it tries to explore Michael Myers' like backstory and why he is the way he is. I actually like that idea. I just hate the dialogue of this movie where they're like, I'm gonna skull fuck you, I'm gonna gonna... And look, I'm a swearer and whatever, but they're the most filthy, foul-mouthed fucking people. Look at that contradiction as I swear just then. But like, I just hate the dialogue in any of the Rob Zombie movies, basically, not just Halloween. Like, I think he's a great filmmaker. I think he has an eye for like visual style, all that stuff. I just hate his filthy dialogue where they're talking about skull fucking people and, I don't know, raping people and whatever else. It's all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, why am I watching this, man? I don't know. It just kills it entirely for me. I then rewatched The Clove Hitch Killer to show my parents, because that is a fantastic movie. They didn't love it as much as I do. When it ended, I'm like, yes, clapping, what a film. And they're like, yep, it was okay, I guess. I then rewatched Nobody to show my parents, which my dad loved. My mum fell asleep. I then rewatched The Push by Darren Brown with my parents, and I further was wondering if it's fake or not. I'm not exactly sure. I then rewatched Possessor with my parents. Sorry, this is just all rewatching with my parents. Yeah, Possessor with my parents, and they surprisingly did quite like that one a bit. Like, it's not super their kind of thing, but like they did get pretty into it, and we had like this in-depth discussion about it and all that kind of stuff. Possessor is definitely like a heavy one to think about the implications of what happened in that movie and what the ending signifies and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I always love about, honestly, that's what I always love about watching movies with my parents, because we can always have like this kind of conversation about it afterwards, which obviously you can get with anyone that you watch it with, but I love my parents, okay? What a hot take, I guess. I don't know. I then rewatched Nitram with them as well to show them Pure Cinema, my third favourite movie of the year. Definitely a hard watch. My mum cried in a few certain scenes, which is very understandable, but we definitely had one of those big discussions about that movie afterwards. Then I rewatched Train to Busan to show them, and they fucking loved Train to Busan, and so do I. I forgot how good it was. Like, I remember I loved it when I watched it earlier, like a few years ago, whenever that was. I didn't see it until maybe like a couple years after it came out. But I remember like really enjoying it, thinking it was a damn solid movie. But my God, I didn't remember just how much I loved it. I even re-rated it on Letterboxd after we watched it that night, and I gave it a 5. I gave it 5 out of 5, because Train to Busan is basically a perfect movie, especially for a genre, you know, the zombie genre, that is so overdone and so like Every time I see anything that's zombies, I'm like, oh my god, we've been there, man. But Train to Busan just doesn't fucking hold up for a second. It's intense the whole time and I love it. Then I rewatched Spider-Man 2. This was in anticipation for No Way Home, which was coming out in a few days. And I'm like, I'm going to watch Spider-Man 2. Only 2. I just feel like watching 2 specifically. I know Doc Ock is in this new one. I want to watch Spider-Man 2, okay? I don't want to go through the whole origin story. I can't be fucked with that. I just want to watch my boy Toby be Spider-Man. Just enjoy the hell out of that. It was a nostalgic moment there and I loved the hell out of it. So much so that I'm like, you know what? I was wrong. I do want to go back and watch that origin story. So I watched the original as well after that. And then I rewatched Spider-Man 3 because I'm like, fuck it. I've went this far. I might as well round it out and finish the trilogy. Even though I watched it completely out of order. But yeah, I enjoyed doing that though. Spider-Man, you know? I love Spider-Man. Definitely a childhood classic. And that's it. Those are my rewatches of movies from 2021. Yeah, so I'll just cut back to past me now. And whatever I was about to do then. And that's it. Those are all the movies that I watched in 2021. But now I'm just going to quickly go through the TV shows that I watched because, hey, I'm bothering to do this at all. I may as well go all out. So, first, I watched Bates Motel. I watched this with my mum. This was a rewatch of the entire series. I believe I actually started the series the year before, but we finished it in 2021, so I thought I would mention it. Bates Motel is one of my favorite shows. So I showed my mum it and we watched it all, okay? Then I watched The Night Of, which is a one season, just like mini series about a guy who finds himself being blamed for a murder that he didn't commit. And he goes to prison for this and it's basically about trying to get him like free of that charge. And it's very interesting. Stars Riz Ahmed, by the way. If you know who that is, you were sold if you haven't seen this already. Definitely watch it. Then there is This Is Us Season 4. Season 5 has just come out recently. I haven't watched it yet. I like This Is Us, so I watched it. Then I watched Barry, Season 1 and 2. This is the Bill Hader comedy show about him being a hitman. It's a dark comedy that I fucking love. And there is this one episode in Season 2 that is just... The whole thing is just one long fight sequence, and it's amazing. Then there was It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, seasons 8 to 13. This was a continuation from when I watched seasons 1 to 7 at the end of last year. All I have available to me, I guess, is 13. I think there's seasons 14 now, maybe 15. Not on my fucking Prime, though, so that's annoying. But I love this show. It's ludicrous. They are assholes. It's the best. Then Alice in Borderland is a show about these people who find themselves stuck in kind of like a Saw situation, but it's more puzzly than that. They have to play games. It's basically Squid Game before Squid Game came out, which I will get to. But I didn't love where it ended up going. It started to be less about the games and more about trying to take down the people behind the games. Much like the Hunger Games, like the later movies where it's just like revolution, rather than it being about the fun death games that I want to see, and I was a bit disappointed by that. Then I watched Modern Family Season 11. This is the final season. I'd never seen that final season before, so I watched it. Then I watched Game of Thrones Seasons 2 to 8, because I'd already seen the first season years ago, didn't really love it, wanted to try it again, but didn't want to watch the whole first season again, so started at 2. I watched them all. I will say that I did end up becoming a fan of this show, but not as much as everybody else was back in the day. Everyone said this was the best show of all time, and I waited for it to become the best show of all time, and that never happened. Breaking Bad is still so much better in my eyes, but I do like Game of Thrones now, okay. It's not something I think I'm ever going to rewatch. It's not something that I'm like obsessed with, but I you know, it's a solid show, you know, particularly the first... No, actually, I take that back. Everyone hates the end of this show, okay? I don't. I think the last couple episodes really fucked it up, but I don't think the last season, especially season 7 is not a bad season. It becomes a bit more of a blockbuster type of thing. I understand. It dumbs itself down. It does. But maybe I needed that. After all the political conversations during the first few seasons where it's just this old man talks to this old man and they have to go to this fucking town in some place. And I'm like, who? What? Where? Huh? What are we talking about? Who are you? Why are you even in this show? Can we get back to fucking, you know, whichever character I like, Jon Snow? Can we go back to him rather than this old man talking about medieval politics, please? But yeah, I ended up liking it though. doesn't sound like I did. I did like it, okay? I liked it. Then I watched Behind Her Eyes, which I actually rewatched. I watched this series twice. I liked it quite a lot. And then I watched WandaVision. WandaVision is the best MCU TV show that has come out, and probably my favorite MCU movie that's come out in a while as well, barring No Way Home, and maybe others that I'm forgetting in this particular moment. WandaVision had me hooked. Every single episode was like, oh my god, what the fuck is gonna happen next? Like, every single time, every week that happened at the end of the episode, I'm like, are you serious? That only went for 20 minutes, and now there's like the biggest cliffhanger ever, and now I need to wait a whole ass week before finding out what happens next? It was hard. It was hard to watch, to be honest, because of that. But it was absolutely incredible. Then I watched The One, which is about a like sci-fi dating service that supposedly shows you who your one true soulmate is. It's based on a book. My wife wanted to watch this because she read the book. Turned out to be pretty good. A lot of people don't like this show because it's apparently very different from the book, but I liked it. Then I watched The Amazing Race 2021, okay? I watched a reality show, okay? I know reality shows are not the height of art. I understand, but I like The Amazing Race, okay? Sue me. Then I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I thought was much weaker to WandaVision. Not nearly as good. It was okay, but yeah, not nearly as good as WandaVision in my opinion. Then there was Bly Manor, which was a rewatch because I fucking love Bly Manor and I showed this to my mum. Sorry, that's just what I do sometimes. I show my mum things, okay? So we watched all of Bly Manor. Then I watched Them. Them is fucking awesome. Watch Them, please. Then I watched The Circle, Season 2. Jesus Christ, The Circle. Yes, I watched another fucking reality show. If you don't know what The Circle is, it is about these people who go into this game. They're not allowed to actually interact with people. They just get their own little apartment in the same building, and they're interacting with each other via text and through like social media. And they can catfish. They can lie about who they are entirely. And it's about voting each other out, trying to become the most likable on social media. And I kind of like it. It's trash. It's fucking super trash, but I like it. Then I watched Future Man, which is so up my alley. Future Man is great, written by Seth Rogen, starring Josh Hutcherson, and it is absolutely wild. Then I watched the entire series of How I Met Your Mother, seasons, 1 to 9. This was a show that I really used to enjoy when I was a kid. I used to really like, when I was like, I don't know, 10 to 13, 14, whatever. I really liked seasons 1 to 5, and I never watched beyond season 5 for some reason. I just dropped off on it. I don't know. I'm usually pretty bad at watching shows, so it's not that surprising. But I ended up watching it from the very start this year to watch all of it, and I had a hell of a time. It's a good show. It's not like the most amazing thing you'll ever see in your life. It's, you know, kind of standard sitcom stuff, but I like it. Then I watched Shadow and Bone, which is a show based on a book series that my wife likes. I didn't finish this because I didn't like it. And I feel a bit bad because she also didn't finish it because of me. Then I watched Big Brother, the Australian Big Brother 2021 season. I don't like Big Brother, but I don't know. It's like I hate getting into these shows because they suck me in. I was into this once I was actually watching it, but I don't like that I watched it. You know, I could be watching better things. Then I watched, but my wife wanted to watch it. Let's blame her. Then I watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine Season 7. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is great. Then I watched Futurama Season 7. I don't know why Season 7. It was just the one that I hadn't seen yet. And I didn't watch beyond that. I just watched Season 7 for some reason. Then I watched a show called Panic, which I liked. Then I watched Feel Good, which is a really good underrated show on Netflix about this comedian, this female comedian, and just basically her relationships and struggles and just wanting to be a normal person but struggling with that in some ways because she feels weird and she feels like she doesn't fit in. You know, she feels like an outcast, and that was relatable. And I just really, really, really like this show. Then I watched A Beautiful Lie, which is an Australian show that was okay. It was okay. Then I watched Frank of Ireland, which, fuck me, is so funny. Frank of Ireland is great. Please watch this show. It's like so good. It's so funny. It's only 6 episodes. And it's really good. It's got Domhnall Gleeson in it and the other Gleesons. It's got the brothers and the dad, and they're basically the ones behind this show. And it's basically just about this loser. It's just about this guy who, like, you know, he's kind of a dirtbag or whatever. But you love him. I don't know. I thought it was great. Then I watched American Horror Story Season 1. This was a rewatch with my mum. I shouldn't have included this because we only watched the first few episodes though, because we watched them and she did like him, but then we went into lockdown. And then that kind of fucked that up, and we haven't continued. We should at some point. Then I watched Loudermilk season 1. This was the only season available to me. This is about a guy who is like an Alcoholics Anonymous group leader, and I like it. Then I watched Atypical season 4. This was the final season of Atypical. This is about a kid with autism who is just this really sweet kid. You just want him to do well, and I like it. It's a very cute show. It's about the family as well. It's dramatic, but it's light. I like it. Then I watched Cuckoo, seasons 1 to 5. This is a show that is weird as shit. Okay, I had Andy Samberg in the first season, and it's about the daughter of this family who brings him home after they've been married overseas because she went over for a gap year or whatever. And yeah, so basically it's just about how he doesn't fit in. He's too cuckoo for this, normal family. But as the series goes on, Andy Samberg drops out, and what's his name? Taylor Lautner from Twilight jumps in, and makes me respect the hell out of this actor, just by the way. I like Taylor Lautner now. He takes over, basically, from Andy Samberg's role as basically the exact same character, pretty much. And it's basically, it becomes this more and more cartoony show, where this family just finds themselves in the craziest, dumbest situations. And I really, really enjoy this show a lot. It's really funny. Anyway, then I watched Dave seasons 1 and 2. That's all that is out so far. This is about a rapper just trying to make it big, basically, and I like it. Then I watched Atlanta, which is actually kind of similar. It's also about a rapper. It also only has 2 seasons out, and I heard it was similar to Dave, so I gave it a go, and yeah, pretty similar feelings about it. I like it. Then I watched American Horror Stories. This is this weird outlier series that came out this year, which is just another season of American Horror Story, really. But instead of being an anthology per season, it's an anthology per episode. And some are good, some are bad. Some are Christmas ones. One is a Christmas one that I thought was good and everyone hates. Then I watched Survivor again. Survivor, another Australian season that came out. Brains versus Brawn. Because I like Survivor. Then I watched Glow Up season 3. This is a makeup competition show. This is a show that originally my wife started watching by herself without me. And I would get home from work and find that she was watching it. And I'd be like, this is actually all right. And then I got obsessed with it a little bit with her. We were watching it every night with dinner and stuff. And yeah, we've watched seasons 2 and 3 now as well. I legitimately like Glow Up, okay? What are you going to do about it? Then I watched Curb Your Enthusiasm seasons 1 to 6. There are more out available on the streaming service Binge, but I just haven't got to them quite yet, but I will because I love Curb Your Enthusiasm now. Then I watched Miracle Workers. This is a show with Daniel Radcliffe and Steve Buscemi, and it's basically, it's another anthology show. The first season is about them being angels and God and stuff, and basically how they can, basically Steve Buscemi is God and he wants to end the world, and Daniel Radcliffe wants to save the world, but it's so much more silly. It's not really that high stakes. I'm making it sound like it's dumb and high stakes, but it's really, it's a stupid show, okay? But it's really smart and it's comedy. And then the second season is this medieval season. Daniel Radcliffe is the king. And then the third season is the Old West. And I don't know. It's a weird show, but they just have these high concept seasons. And I enjoy them quite a bit. They get a bit dumber. By season 3, it's the humor is a bit more scatological and whatever. It's a bit dumb, but I like it. Then I watched Supernatural seasons 7 to 10. I had never seen past season 6 before, so I'm trying to watch all of Supernatural, and I still am. I'm in the middle of season 10 at the moment. Then I watched 9 Perfect Strangers, which I didn't think was as good as I was expecting it to be. This is based on another book that my wife really likes, so she was super hyped for this series. I ended up not liking it. It kind of just ended up being about a bunch of people doing drugs, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you're all just high. I don't know, this isn't that interesting. Then I watched the entire series of Dexter, which, yes, I only watched for the first time this year, and it completely stole my heart, as you would know if you've been paying any attention to this channel. Dexter is honestly up there with Breaking Bad for me now. I love Dexter so much. Then I watched Slasher season 4, which, Then I watched Slasher season 4, which is basically a death game series about a family who is trying to win a large sum of money but a bunch of them die in these death games and stuff, and it's fun. Then I watched Clickbait, which was shot here in Melbourne, which was exciting. But apart from that, it wasn't that good a show, but it was okay. It was basically this guy gets like kidnapped, a viral video goes up saying, you know, keep watching this. Once it gets to this amount of views, this guy will die. And it's basically about his family members trying to find him and help him. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. Then I watched The White Lotus, which is the best, I believe, 7 episode series I've ever seen in my life. I really hugely recommend this to anyone who thinks that it might be interesting. It's kind of just another dramedy about a family. Different groups of families. There's a couple, there's a family, there's a few different characters here where they have all come to Hawaii like for a week or two or whatever. And it's basically just about these really... a lot of selfish people, a lot of situations that people find themselves in that are kind of humorous and over the top, but in grounded ways. Like a woman who is basically giving birth on the floor on her first day of work. That happens in the first episode, so it's not too much of a spoiler. Like, her water breaks in the like lobby of the hotel, and she's meant to be like working there, and then it's just about how the manager's like, oh shit, why didn't you tell me about this? Because he didn't know she was pregnant. And I don't know, it's just it's a show about this manager trying to fix everybody's problems, basically, and I like. Then I watched American Horror Story double feature, but I only watched the first half. I haven't watched the second half still. I just wasn't that into it. I didn't finish the first half, and so I still haven't seen it. I'm sorry. Maybe this shouldn't count because I didn't finish it, but I'm counting it. No. I liked it quite a bit too, but it was starting to lose me. Then I watched Kevin Can Fuck Himself, which is basically a deconstruction of the sitcom that we all know. And yeah, it's kind of like this dark version of the sitcom as we see it from the wife's perspective where, you know, things start to be grounded and things aren't quite as happy as they seem. Then when we see it from the husband's perspective, everything is way more colourful and fun and there's a laugh track. But that stuff all gets taken away when we leave the room that he is in. And I find that really fascinating. I like this show quite a lot. Then I watched I'm Dying Up Here, which is a series about comedians in the 60s or 70s or something like that. There's 2 seasons of this show and I like it. Then I watched Good Girls season 3 to 4. Good Girls is Good Girls. I don't know. It's kind of like trying to be a Breaking Bad type of show, but it's not nearly as good. But it's okay. Then I watched 2 of the best shows of the year that everybody else watched. Midnight Mass and Squid Game. I don't really need to say more. Midnight Mass definitely blew me away, but it's not my favourite of Mike Flanagan's shows. I like The Haunting of Hill House and Blind Manor more, but it's still fucking quality TV. And then Squid Game. You know, everyone watched Squid Game. Then I watched You season 3. You is such a rip-off of Dexter, but I like it. Then I watched One of Us is Lying, which is another show based on a book that my wife likes, about teenagers in a high school, and one of the teenagers dies, and basically it's like, oh my god, who did it? And, you know, from that, it's pretty teenagey, it's not amazing, but I liked it okay. Very similar to that, I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's like the exact same show, but I didn't finish this one. Then I watched a show called Dead Like Me. There's only 2 seasons of this show. It's about a girl who dies, and she basically becomes a Grim Reaper and has to kill people, and yeah, I don't know, but it's a comedy. But yeah, it's just basically about this main character adjusting to having to take more people to the afterlife, and it's alright. It's not the best show ever. It's clearly a bit outdated. This came out in like the early 2000s, but yeah, I like the premise. It was fun enough. Then I watched the entire series of Get Shorty, which is a show starring Chris O'Dowd about a couple criminals who decide to get into film production, and they kind of lie their way in by telling everybody, yeah, I worked with this guy, yeah, I have this experience, and they really have no fucking clue what they're doing. And then it all just becomes about like this mix of crime and making a movie, and I like it a fucking lot. Then, very similar to that, because I wanted to watch something similar, I watched all of Fargo season 2 and 3. Fargo season 2 is maybe one of my favourite shows of all time, just season 2 alone. It's got Jesse Plemons in it, again, who I've mentioned a couple times earlier in this video, and Kirsten Dunst, and Patrick Wilson, and it's basically just, it's a Fargo story. It's a small town, you know, crime story and everything. But basically, the main crux of this show is that Kirsten Dunst's character has killed somebody who is part of one of the gangs of this town. And this gang is fighting another gang in this town. There's like this gang war going on. And so basically they're trying to figure out who killed this person in this gang, and it's creating all this conflict between them. Patrick Wilson is the small town cop caught in between of all this, and it's ingenious. Then I saw Fear Factor, seasons 1 to 3, maybe some of 4. I don't know. I'm watching Fear Factor with my wife at the moment. We just watch it when we're having dinner because it's like, I don't know. Put fucking Fear Factor on. I don't know what else to watch. It's just nostalgic. It's shitty, trashy TV, but I like it. It's fun, you know. You watch some people do some crazy things, some gross things and whatever. I watched it when I was a kid, so it's like, yeah, it's got that nostalgia there. It's just nice to watch. It's shitty comfort show, you know. But I will say that Joe Rogan himself, the host, he's a creep in this show, man. Like he is just outwardly flirting with any of the women in this show. There is like quite a bit of outdated sexism between him and between contestants and stuff, making fun of the women a lot of the time, or just commenting on their appearance or their boobs even, or all that kind of stuff. They'll be like, I don't know, she looks a bit fat to do this challenge and everything. Like, and they'll all laugh and stuff, and then she falls, and then they laugh, and it's like, I wish she didn't fall because she kind of like, I don't want them to think they're right about their comments. There's a lot of people that piss me off in this show. Like the early 2000s cringe is pretty high in this show. But apart from that, I like watching the silly stunts, okay? Then I watched The Simpsons season 23 and 24 and some older episodes as well in between. I'm trying to see all of The Simpsons in my life at some point. I don't quite know where I stopped. Somewhere at like season, I don't know, 15 I would have thought, but then I keep looking and it's like, no, I've seen that one. Maybe I have seen this season. I don't know. So I started in the 20s. I'm like, let's just jump to one of these random seasons in season 20. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. Then I watched Ozark seasons 1 to 3, which is another show that wants to be Breaking Bad, but actually is maybe as good as Breaking Bad in some people's eyes. To me, not quite as good, but it is very good. Definitely quality TV. I can't believe I hadn't watched this earlier. Then I watched, I'm still watching at the moment, not long now, but Dexter New Blood. Obviously the follow-up to Dexter, and I love it. Then I am now currently watching Yellow Jackets, which is another show by the writers or producers or something of Dexter New Blood. This is about a girls' soccer team who gets in a plane crash and stranded on an island, and basically the dark things that they have to do to survive. It's also about their lives, or at least some of their lives, after that fact, when they get off the island. We don't know how this happens yet, and we don't know all of the people who do survive yet. I'm sure some have died, I'm sure some have survived, but we haven't seen them yet. I don't know yet. Things are unfolding. I'm only a few episodes into it, but I like it a lot. Also, I forgot to mention, because I didn't write them down, but they were somewhere here, Loki and Hawkeye. Also watch those. Good, better than Falcon and Winter Soldier in my opinion, but not as good as WandaVision. And now, this is a long ass video. I'm pretty sick of this now, but hey, if you must know, let's just quickly go through the video games I played too. I might have forgot to write some of these down, to be honest, but I've got 18 written. I played Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I thought was a lot harder than I was expecting it to be. I thought it was just going to be like hack and slash bullshit, but it was actually challenging, and I'm like, I don't feel like this, and I didn't finish it. Then I tried to play Cyberpunk because my wife got it for me for Christmas last year. Didn't work. I've only got an Xbox One, so that may have something to do with it. I will try again at some point, because apparently they're trying to fix it, but I have my doubts. Then I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare from 2019. Pretty good game. Then I played Resident Evil Remake 2. Hell yeah, man. Resident Evil Remake 2 is great, except for the big man in the top hat that keeps following you around. I hate that guy. Then I played Wreckfest, which is just this like car game or whatever, like in demolition derbies and that kind of thing. Then I played Halo Combat Evolved and beat that, because what a classic game that I'd never actually played before. I'd only played Halo 3 and everything past that, like Reach and 4 and stuff. I'd never played the first one, so I played the first one. I also played the second one. Great games. Great games. What a hot take, right? Then I played Driver 3, which is a game that does not get any respect, but you know what? I loved it when I was a kid. I'm like, alright, let's just see if that was nostalgia. Nah, I still love it now. I think it's great. It's more like a fucking movie than a game, like in some particular ways. Everything is cinematic, or the missions fold out like like a movie. Like there's stunts in there and that kind of stuff. Like cinematic set pieces and everything. There's also like this film direction thing you can do where you edit like an entire, like whether you're doing free play or a mission, you can basically edit all the camera angles and just watch it as it plays through, which is awesome. It's just a really cool feature. It's really in depth, particularly for a PS2 game, right? Like I'm impressed by that. And yeah, I don't know. It's cool. There's also a bunch of fun mini games in there too. Driver 3 is a great game. Screw the haters. Then there's Simpsons Hit and Run, which, I mean, it's basically Grand Theft Auto, but it's The Simpsons, and I loved it when I was a kid. I love it now. Basically, as you're going to find out, I figured out how to get my PS2 working with my TV and everything, because I got it from my parents this year, I believe. So I played a bunch of PS2 games. I also played Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, which is the best Mortal Kombat game in my opinion. It's not a like 2D arena fighter. It's like a top-down sort of beat 'em up, and it's awesome. I also played Red Dead Revolver, the preceding game to Red Dead Redemption, which is awesome. I played Spider-Man 2 on the PS2 version of that. Classic game. I also played Spider-Man PS4 because I had never finished it. So I finished it this year. I also played Grand Theft Auto Vice City. This was not the remastered version that came out this year though, because I didn't get that. And I wanted to play Vice City when everyone else was playing the remastered one. So I just booted up the PS2 one because I don't really care about the graphics that much. Whatever, who cares? It does look terrible though, especially on like a big modern TV. It is blurry, hard on the eyes. Maybe I do care about graphics, but hey, whatever. Then I played Halo Infinite, and I'm still playing that. I haven't finished it. I'm also currently playing the first Resident Evil remake, and I also played EA Skate. I'm not playing that anymore. And the last thing that I have written down, I played Rainbow Six Vegas, the original one, earlier last year. And yeah, that's it. That is everything that I watched and played and all that sort of stuff in the year of 2021. Happy New Year and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's a new year. What am I going to watch this year? Lots of things. Maybe I'll do one of these next year if this gets any views. Sorry that this went for so long to me, because I'm sick of recording this. But that is about it. Please like and comment and share and subscribe. Do the things. Let me know what you watched. Let me know if you particularly like some of the ones I've mentioned and all that stuff. But yeah, that's everything I've watched. Sorry if it doesn't seem like as much as maybe you would have expected me to watch, because I'm making videos. I don't have all the time in the world. And that's it. I'm relieved to be finished this recording. It's hot. It is a hot day, as you can see. Goodbye.